I'm not that vain. Hey YouTube, welcome to all who are watching. My name is Jade Harvey, and this afternoon we are at My Place Cafe, and we are doing poetry. My Place Cafe is located within Hin's Teeth Square. That's 20. It's a mouthful. It's 2057 North Los Robles Avenue, Suite 10, Pasadena, California, at the corner of Woodbury and Los Robles. My place is open every day from 7:30 to 3 p.m. My Place Cafe is still open during this live stream, so feel free to come down, drop on, have a coffee, a cold brew, a latte, enjoy the poetry. Above my Place Cafe is also the Zen Den. There's a yoga studio that's run by a Jody Smith, and Jody Smith is also the founder of Magic Melanin Mama. It's an urban apothecary for lotions and potions and herbal products. It's wellness for the culture. Next classes for the Zen Den are actually tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. First is Vinyasa Flow. Vinyasa Flow. Is that correct? I don't know if that's correct.
I think it's Vinyasa.
Try to look that up. The second is Soul Flow. You can learn more about these and other yoga sessions, and you can purchase some of the Magic Melanin Mama products at the zendenla.com. Honestly, I didn't even know Jesse did yoga until he mentioned it during the events.
Yeah, I actually did one soul flow class here, and I took one yoga course as a semester long kinesiology class at Kappa Pomona.
So that was the side note, but today has been a great day. We had a Lego sale, but Lego sale. By Francisco. He's also a poet that has been featured in Spectrum Publishing's 30th issue. Yesterday, Jesse told me about My Place Cafe. They had a special visit from Father Justin Claraval. He works with Homeboy Industries and was impressed by and he was impressed by My Place Cafe and that they sell some of the Homeboy pastries. Last weekend was great too, from what I have heard and seen. Last Saturday, the Johnson family held their Johnson Family Legacy Scholarship Friendraiser for the John Moore High students. So today, I'm just so thrilled to hear that we are having Meri Tumanyan read. I met her when she co-hosted the Labor Day special last fall. Afterwards, Jesse and I joined her, Janet, Kevin, Kate, and Arthur Kazakian for Mad Mouth Poetry, and we had a lovely dinner, and there was an ice cream social, and we did a little thing in Old Town Pasadena, walked everywhere. By the way, Jesse read in San Francisco recently at a multiple author reading hosted by Kevin Dublin last Friday. So, quick clapping for him.
Oh. Wait, what? Oh, okay.
And by the way, he will be introducing, you guessed it, Meri Tumanyan. So, Jesse.
Well, thank you, Jade. And I don't do this, but I will read a poem before I speak about Meri Tumanyan. So the poem I'm going to read, well, at least part of it, will be Ye's poem called Divorce. Because he starts off with a something that we're going through right now in real life. So I'm going to just read it. Divorce feels like full-blown COVID. Divorce feels like your doctor don't know shit. Divorce feels like you're walking on glass. Divorce feels like you're running through a glass wall. Divorce feels like you're being bullied in a class hall. Divorce feels like you're getting beat up in the mall. Divorce feels like your hand was burned on the stove. Divorce feels like your soul is dragged over coals. Divorce feels like grandma never got over that cold. And then I'm gonna move on here. Um, Michael Jackson said it best. You're a vegetable. You're a vegetable. You're the real Cosby, not a Huxtable. Well, anyways, the reason I read that poem is because the pandemic is discussed by both Ye and MT. In Love of Time, in the Time of Corona, the speaker conveys how birds facilitate how flowers speak in the poem, The Language of Flowers. I think the title poem reacts to headlines regarding love, intimacy, and sex during what was then a would-be pandemic, which became a real pandemic. I especially remember TMZ articles that cited other articles that just seemed ridiculous, such as Nevada brothels, mask sex during coronavirus scare. I wonder how many people actually tried that when things slowly went back to normal. Anyways, without getting into other tangents, I just want to say Meri has referred to her poetry collection as her quarantine baby in her Nervous Ghost Press open mic appearance and her Spectrum Publishing print and internet workshop appearance. This collection is amazing and I have enjoyed it. I'm happy I made this reading all about her reality. So please clap your hands as we welcoming gesture to Meri Tumanyan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in from home. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you. It is an honor and privilege to be here and looking forward to reading some of my poems. Please, come here. All right. So thank you, Jesse, for that lovely introduction. This is my quarantine baby. I know some friends who had actual babies. This is mine. I want to thank Arthur Kaizekian. I don't know if he's in with us yet, but it was all because of Letters in Quarantine in Facebook that this collection came to be. He created this platform where writers and non-writers started communicating about their quarantine experience. And we started off writing letters to each other. Then we're writing letters to Dear Loss, Dear Loneliness, Dear Pandemic. And then some of those letters became poems, and here it is. And I think I'm going to start with the title poem, Love in the Time of Corona, because that's the poem that inspired this collection. So I'll go ahead and talk about the theme of the book, because ultimately the theme is about love, but not the romantic love that we always think of. It's more about spiritual love and love of nature and love for the self and everything that gives us hope to keep going. Because God knows we needed hope during the pandemic. So I'll start with the love in the time of Corona, because I think I was thinking, what happens to lovers or couples or people who are not living together and the pandemic hits and they have to be isolated, and how does the average person respond to that? So here it is, love in the time of Corona. I called my lover to let him know that no pestilence from hell could keep me away from him much longer. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, so we drove through deserted streets, met on the sidewalk by a lamppost, and we stared into eyes filled with more fear than longing. He handed me a blue hydrangea, a gesture of apology for his silence, his aloofness in these times of darkness. When he put his gloved hand on my face to kiss me through my mask, I couldn't help but take a few steps back. I'll do the language of flowers, because I feel like during quarantine we got more time to kind of wander around in our backyard and take a look at things we're growing and how the flowers are blossoming. And this was inspired by an actual hummingbird that I saw in the flowers. The language of flowers. Hummingbirds flutter their wings, poking long beaks in a blooming honeysuckle. Sparrows often rest on a twig, turning their peppercorn eyeballs from side to side. Birds nestle in nests like wind and rain did not matter. Even the crows that croak like frogs entice the eye with ebony feathers. Once, an eagle spread its wings, casting a shadow bigger than itself. Glances have stirred me the way birds make petals quiver. It's through the silence in his gaze that I've learned the language of flowers. Thank you. Why not to write? Why not to write? Because when the ink pierces through paper, the sharpest pain becomes a throbbing ache. And the scar grows bigger somehow. It feels more deeply etched. I can't figure out whether the act of writing provides a quick rebirth or a slow and painful death. The same way I can't determine if thinking about you is comforting or destroying me. As I was uttering your name, I wrote it on the sand, but the waves washed it away. I engraved it on my heart. Now it calls you every day. One of the poems that was an actual post on Facebook, Letters in Quarantine, was Mirror, Mirror. And I think this was in March and April when the quarantine and the reality of the pandemic was hitting us. And so this is what came out. Mirror, mirror, looking glass, who's the stronger one of us? I smile, you frown, I cry, you sneer. Maybe we should grab a beer. Mirror, mirror, watch me drown, sorrow sealed behind the frown. You smile, I sneer, I cry, you cheer. Maybe all we feel is fear. And you can't have like a love collection without some lovey-dovey stuff, right? So, into the woods. Kiss me now, while the veil of darkness hides the wildness in my eyes. Kiss me now, silence the moans before the chirping slowly dies. Kiss me now while the moonlight shadow conceals my fleshy face. Kiss me now before the dawn of reason casts the spell upon this place. Let's see. I don't know about you guys, but I experienced a lot of insomnia during the pandemic because we were so used to getting up at 7 and rushing off to work, and all our routine was messed up. And I'm not a sleeper to begin with, but it just made it worse. So this is called Greeting Dawn. Because the darkness leaves a gap between morning and the moon, and when sleep escapes my eyes, thoughts chatter out of turn, the songs of nightingales blend with those of larks. Then I thank the guiding stars that in my search for words, I have once again greeted the rising sun. If I could talk to clouds, I'd ask how they withstand the heat of the sun, the noise of a thunderstorm. I've become a fan of the 2-3-liners. It's just as effective as like a full-length poem.
Yeah.
Couplet. I've become a branched out magnolia tree, exuding fragrance you alone can sense. Waking with you makes the sun sneak through blinds as golden strips of dawn. My roots are verses, interlaced with memories of fear, for you showed me strength was in letting go. The color of my grief is now forest green. A rippling creek has been nourishing me. As unfinished manuscripts beg the pen for words, so helpless eyes plead for lips once more. Jasmine floats through this white room of healing where pleasure and pain switch roles. The weight of my sadness teases our taste buds like the rose petal jam with kisses infused. I sip from the cup you hold to my lips as my head kneels against your palm. This is one of my other favorite ones, the weight of water. We never think about the weight of water, right? He asked me, why are you chasing the stream when there's an ocean inside you? Because sorrow is a heavy anchor. The image marinated in my mind as I uttered the reply. Haven't you felt the weight of water? Yes, that was our last time together. This is a more of a darker one because love ain't pretty. We know that, right? Like the lovers of Pompeii. I don't know if you guys ever see the movie Pompeii? Kind of a fictional version of what really happened in Pompeii and how the whole city got buried under. Yes, I see. Yes.
I didn't see the movie, but I've been to Pompeii.
You've been to Pompeii. You've seen the real thing. The image was inspired by the movie, and then of course the creative mind kicks in, right? Like the lovers of Pompeii. The pumice of rage rained upon me in your absence as I concealed another fire you set ablaze. Heat poured through my veins like the lava Mount Vesuvius flooded upon Pompeii, freezing bodies and artifacts in time. You shall find me entombed in the ashes of eruptions you caused each time you've silently vanished and returned only to leave again. I will be buried in the core of your being, like the city you preserved by destroying. Even when dormant, your crater, though too far to be seen, always feels close enough to be feared. I've touched the magma that boils underneath. There is a dark shadow upon my village, forever covered in debris, but you're too proud to stay and clean the dust, and I'm way too selfish to part with the past. How much time do we have? And what do you want me to do besides just read?
You have about like 20 more minutes.
All right, awesome. All right, Cotton Ball on Fire. This is in June with all the riots and protests and everything that was going on, and I think there were fires too. And I remember feeling particularly depressed that week because I literally felt like the world was on fire. And here are my kids like running around in the backyard and kind of oblivious to what's going on. And I actually cried that day. I did. Cotton Ball on Fire. Tonight, the world is a cotton ball on fire. The flying embers are everywhere. How crimson the sky looks behind the two choppers hovering above. The sound of breaking news on TV, mourning the state of our country so great, now burning in conflagration because no one minded the kindling flames before. Earth has become the setting of a dystopian novel in which all things surreal are now our everyday reality. Curfews have just been added to stay-home orders, closures, masks, gloves, and social distancing guidelines. Tonight, I cry for my children. I cry for all children who further engross themselves in a virtual world to escape the real one, which they have not even been a part of long enough to fully appreciate. Their memory of June gloom will be overcast skies with fog and clouds. And of course, the crowds in the time of Corona. They will remember the destruction and chaos on one hand, the peaceful gatherings and dignified protests on the other. They will recall cops chasing civilians turned into looters,
Heartbroken protesters in masks holding signs, standing in solidarity to demand justice for those whose oxygen was cut off centuries ago. But today, we saw how one man lost his breath. Tonight, officers are on their knees trying to appease a crowd that is too enraged to notice the fire in the sky. And I see through my tears that when God refuses to lend us an ear, he paints a picture to show how rage burns through clouds. Let's see. And then I have like simple ones, right? Like the sheer appreciation of nature and how it keeps you going. Lasting beauty. Then there's beauty that lasts forever, like the full moon beaming in a starlit sky, just to help you get through another night, right? The universe of us. The universe of me is a shadow of skeletons where love weaves and falls through ribs that once housed a heart. The universe of you is the whirlpool where syllables slam against the hollow skull, where words dissipate across the wall. The universe of us is composed of muddy puddles I no longer wish to splash in with my floral rubber boots. Sometimes it takes the pandemic to clear away the clouds. That's a heavy one. I get that. Oh, what were you thinking, right? I wasn't thinking, I was feeling. The day hope died. She's like, can we cheer this up, please? Hey, look, we're in person at a coffee shop. I mean, we've come a long way, people. We've come a long way. The day hope died. Why does fear tiptoe on my rooftop like a robber trying to break into my home? Where will hope be next spring if our newly blossomed orange tree died this morning? Seriously, our orange tree that died that morning. If disappointment were a pill, I'd crush a dose in every meal and wash it down with wine. Love circles like fireflies over a blazing pit, but his become a loud shadow I can't touch or feel. I'm worried because the future is uncertain, and I'm nostalgic about a past we have grown to resent. If hope had wings, it would hover around us like a fairy, sprinkling pixie dust on our harvest. But shelves at the grocery stores are still empty, and my appetite has grown voracious. So I drink more coffee to taste the bitterness I've begun to feel. You know, I grew up in Armenia in 1991, and there was a blockade, and stuff didn't come into the country. So we had money, but we couldn't buy things, and shelves were literally empty. And so with the pandemic, I had like a total flashback because I'd go to Target and my kids wanted pasta and sauce. As simple as that. The shelves were repeatedly clear. I tried online orders, which tried Rouse and Smart and Final. I'm like, what's up with pasta and sauce? Like everyone's stocking up, right? So anyhow, that gave me like a flashback of my childhood. And I thought, you know, that was traumatic for me. So this must be traumatic for my kids, you know? And all they got was ice cream, different flavors of ice cream. It worked out. 91. I was 11. Yeah.
No, but I had no idea that the similar thing happened with Armenia. Like
it wasn't similar. It was more political.
Oh, cool.
It was a blockade from all sides. But interview with the artist. This is actually a very old one. I wrote in my 20s, and then I decided to include it here because art keeps us going, right? It keeps us alive on many levels. Interview with the artist. And what is it that he tries to find at the bottom of that vodka bottle. Love is in the creation, he says, as it fills his glass. And life is the stillness captured with the brush. Stillness that we bring to life with every stroke of imagination. But what about truth and beauty, the source of inspiration, artist intention, the purpose of creation? Creation is life, pours the last drops of wisdom into a cup running over. Beauty is in the act, but the only truth I've found, picks up his paintbrush, is the one sealed up inside that bottle. And who's to argue with him, right? Let's see. I'm trying to do something a little more uplifting, people.
That's not good.
Another insomnia poem. Dear Insomnia, I've never been more enamored with the moon and the sea. Keep conspiring with darkness. Please conceal this love affair between you and me. So we took a family trip to Michigan last August, and we stayed in Bloomfield Hills, a very nice neighborhood, and we went on walks all the time. And then I saw this house covered like in all these vines, and it was like this majestic sight. And I literally imagined it walking towards me, if you can imagine that. So that inspired a poem. I came home and just typed this up. It's called Naphthalene. Guys, remember those mothballs like our great grandparents used to use all the time to keep the moths away? And anyhow, on my walk this afternoon, a house marched forward, Tudor, I think, and handed me the mail. He said they were newspapers archived from the past. Dates don't really matter, he sighed. All news is old news. Ancient basements don't lie. I set the box on his front porch, plucked a gardenia, and said, I'll bring some mothballs the next time I pass by. My great-grandma used them to preserve the past, which she carried in a chest across seas and oceans she crossed. Each time she left an old country for a newer house, an empty home, she filled the void with naphthalene, the pungent smell of vanishing. I still remember that smell and yeah. And then I did some funky things like visuals and
No, these I enjoyed, like reading
signs
like
and
version.
yeah. So this one you got to start reading from the bottom up, right? So even if all paths could lead me back to you, would you still be there where we last kissed hello? And we have a deeper sign, right? Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. She got it. Thank you. The Summer of Locust. You know, we cry then, we laugh now. That's just how it goes. It's been the summer of locusts, and not just the swarm of grasshoppers devouring crops, threatening the food supply of millions of people. It's been the year of other locust-like raids on the human race, an unforgiving pandemic, countless deaths, destructive explosions, earthquakes and fires, political unrest, spiritual famine, psychological warfare, social starvation, loss, loneliness, heartache, the plague of fear and swarming panic spread across fields of hopelessness where we persistently plant seeds of hope.
Okay, so I'm actually glad you read it because when I read it totally different. But that's the whole point of these kind of poems when it's like placed in these different positions. And those are my favorite kind of poems I like to read, whether it's like you or what's her name, Susan Howe. Yeah.
I meant to write it as a newspaper column, like it was a newspaper.
Yeah.
Article. Yeah. Same thing with COVID-19. It's got, and it's really hard. Yeah, this one. It's really hard to fit that on I think this is 5x9 or something. It's not an 8x11 page. So and I had to, do a lot of funky stuff to make that work, but it's hard. The ocean keeps calling. I mean, you can't ever find me go to the ocean, right? That's wrong. But and this is actually where my Instagram page, Empty Musings, came about. I decided to call it Empty Musings, and this poem kind of inspired that name. The ocean keeps calling, the musings we share, like certain truths we should never tell. How lips do better with kisses than with words. How we blink to hide desires in our souls. How age alone does not bring wisdom. Do waves shape rocks by crashing against them? The human psyche is darker than the sea. Only a few can dive into such depths to fearlessly greet monsters that surface. Rocks anchor the restless sand. Waves long for ticklish feet. Seagulls squawk like they're guardians of the beach. Seaweeds coil like serpentine eggs clutching the heart. Love sobs with weight like a ship that bears cargo. The highway, an empty vessel, feeds on fuel from cars. And the ocean, like wandering minds, always sleeps with open eyes. All right, I'm reaching the end of the book, and I just wanted to. This one was really hard to do, typographically. But the idea is you can read the poem up and down, many times as you want. Where the sea meets the sand, I'll meet you there. Where the sea meets the sand, where lightning and clouds collide, where sunsets emblazon the sky, where seagulls sing a lullaby and the stars glow in the dark. Tell me how the moon floods the beach at night. Grab me by the hips, pull me like the tide, show me how to kiss, making me breathless. Whisper tenderly and love me reckless. Greet me like the sea greets the sand. Like the sea greets the sand, greet me. And love me reckless, whisper tenderly, making me breathless. Show me how to kiss, pull me like the tide, grab me by the hips, flood the beach at night. Tell me how the moon and the stars glow in the dark, where seagulls sing a lullaby, where sunsets emblazon the sky, where lightning and clouds collide, where the sea meets the sand. I'll meet you there.
Woo.
Thank you. And I'm going to end there because that's a good place to stop. But thank you so much for being here, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in from home. Appreciate your support.
That's pretty cool to have a poem you can read from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this is in no way important to the wider conversation, but I think a really interesting bit of biological fact/bit of poetic imagery. Grasshoppers technically only become locust swarms after they start cannibalizing each other.
Oof.
Interesting fact.
Yeah.
I like the poetic nature of that.
Ooh.
Before Jade closes us out with announcements and stuff, I wanted to know if there's any questions you wanted to ask out loud to Meri before we move on.
Should I step over here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can stand.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm not
Oh, you
very
don't.
good.
You don't have
Stay,
to close it?
stay.
I'm ready. Yeah. This.
Oh, I'll give it to you. I thought
You never gave me any end.
Yeah, sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Meri, when did you decide to become an English teacher?
I decided to be a teacher since I was 7.
Oh, nice.
I would gather all the kids in my neighborhood and do lessons, hold classes, and create worksheets and such. And my dad actually felt so bad for me for writing things out all the time. There were no copy machines, 1998, 88 Armenia, right? So he got me like a blackboard and chalk. So that's when I knew I wanted to be a teacher. But it was actually Mr. Bergdorf at THS when I took British Lit with him. And that's the subject I want to teach.
I remember him. It took a while, but now I remember him.
Do you remember him?
Yes, thanks.
He used to like hop around on desks and he used to like greet us every morning with this tremendous amount of energy. And I'm like, that's the kind of teacher I want to be.
He's definitely a good force.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyone else? All right. Well, you can go ahead, Jade.
Okay, so almost signing out. Quick side statement. A great big hand for Meri. Thank you for reading for us. And I'm happy this My Place event was able to become a reality. Thank you to all who are watching, and thank you to LaTanya and to Jody and all our lovely coworkers and volunteers here at My Place Cafe. If you would like to get in touch with Meri Tumanyan, I've heard it many times now, still can't say it. Follow her on Instagram at mt_musings. That's where she does her posting. I'm not an Instagrammer. I don't know. There is an example of what Jesse says Kevin Duplin describes as automatizing the drafting writing process as a poet, a novelist, and a scholarship writer. I also hear that Arthur Kazakian is coming out with a chapter book titled My Burning City. So, yay! Next Friday at it's still noontime. My Place Cafe will be having the afternoon poetry session with Jean-Pierre Rueda. He's the author of Hortensius, and if you are on your lunch break at the cafe or just in the area, have your ears tuned to the bilingual poesia. Jean-Pierre is Costa Rican, and but that's next week. For now, have a great Sunday, have a great Saturday. Remember, my place is your place.